So we're hybrid assemblages now, but we weren't. I mean, we perhaps always were. We've always carried things with us as we're tourists. Who isn't a tourist in day-to-day life, everyday life? But we're using these technologies, or these technologies are changing and becoming more disruptive. We've conducted some experiments ourselves, and I know Chris has as well. Perhaps some of you have been complicit in some of these sorts of experiments. Before smartphones really took hold, I guess, which is only the last 2 years, we had access to these devices. This is Instamapper, and there's a technology called Instatracker, and then you have Google Maps, and you have this notion of mashup, so these various systems are interfaced, and you can interface things with Facebook and so on. And if you interface with Facebook, then your friends selectively can see where you're traveling across the country, and that's fascinating, isn't it? I don't know how many friends take that up. And we created an early sort of prototype of that sort of interaction by mashing up various facilities and features. Maybe after you've been on your journey, you can come back and see where you've been. All sorts of problems that are technical to do with that, and as you know, perhaps when you start using GPS on a mobile device, it runs the battery down very quickly. But then also there's privacy issues. Do you really want people to know where you are? Maybe as an experiment or as a way of defamiliarizing the environment, as a disruptive exercise, as part of a design project. You might do that, and maybe that's the value of this. Whether you do it on a day-to-day, everyday sort of basis is another issue. Some of the research we were doing, we labelled research by design, which people use as a terminology. And that is, in fact, designing something, creating some kind of intervention using these devices. And that revealing something about the environment, about socialism, about architecture, about space, which then might lead to other projects. So we did some experiments that involved exposing designers to some technologies that we had to hand. The technology we were actually working with was to use a mobile phone to take a photograph of some object, anything like this plastic, and take a photograph of the back of it, which has a picture. And then you could dispatch that image through multimedia messaging, so MMS, to a server through a special phone number, and then you get back some sort of response. So what happens is the server software recognizes through some intelligent pattern matching software what you're looking at, what the photograph is, and we then create some response. And we got designers to look at what to do with that. Well, one is invisible art. You plant artworks on buildings. So you take a photograph of the building, and then MMS that back to a server, and then in return you get an image of that same view with another image planted on top of it, sort of a virtual graffiti image. Explain that there's a new game or a game called phone tag, and involves tagging people by photographing them, giving you scores automatically, and also the idea of logging onto places. So as you enter an environment, you take a photograph of the front entrance, send that to the server, and then that clocks the fact that you're present there and tells all your Facebook friends, another mashup, and it tells them where you are. It turned out as we experimented with some of these things, certainly the latter turned out to be intensely annoying. Facebook friends really didn't want to know where you were, but then maybe, again, it's a disruptive technology. What can we learn from that? And maybe something else could come from it that's more socially useful. We did some other experiments. There was this feature, this is San Francisco, this facility for cab spotting. So cabs, taxis in San Francisco are GPS tagged by the cab company, and then other people could connect into the data stream of where all the cabs are located. And that exists, and it's on the internet, and you can see the movement of cabs. And it creates this very interesting sort of representation of the city, which has to be of interest to designers and urbanists. But then also we connected to that, where our researcher did, by saying, well, let's interface that with Flickr images. So as the cabs move through San Francisco, let's harvest images from Flickr that are geotagged that relate to those areas. And that, again, is an interesting representation, another view of the city, which I would argue is disruptive and interesting, at least for the researcher. But then, arguably, well, we did this, we implemented this ourselves for Edinburgh or for anywhere. So here's me progressing through Edinburgh, this point on the city moving through. And what's happening here is as I go, images are being harvested from Flickr. Now, I didn't take those Flickr images, but they're in the environment as I move through town. So there's some latency or inertia in this system as we implement it, because things were a bit slow in those days and we didn't have access to iPhones. So it meant you had to sort of connect to a website to see the trail of where you've been. But imagine walking through town and sort of instantly having a Flickr image. And maybe sort of zooming in or filtering those images from where you happen to be. What would that do to your understanding of the environment? Would it be something that's fabulously amazing? Would it be instructive? Would it be informative? Would it give you another view of the environment? Because you'd be perhaps seeing things just down the road that are not accessible. You'd be seeing inside people's houses, you'd be seeing family snapshots. You'd be seeing the environment at different times of the day. You'd be seeing the environment through other eyes. So, really interesting, and that's another experiment related to that, where we're looking at using the environment for depositing images and files. So our motivation was the idea of meeting places. So as you go to the pub and meet with your colleagues, not friends so much, your work colleagues, we have meetings throughout the city, effectively. Could you deposit files in that environment effectively through your devices? And then somebody else who's part of the group will appears later on pick up those files. Well, with geotagging, all of that is possible. And the notion of the cloud computing, where things are being stored in servers that are invisible and out there, it kind of doesn't matter where they are. There's something exciting around that. Possibilities to do with space and documents. And Chris and I have talked about homomorphism already, experiencing this sort of areas. And the technology goes on and on, this idea that you can hold up your device and somehow get a representation of the 3D world around you and see the location of the coffee shop, the features and facilities, and possibly files as well that friends have left there for you to pick up. I think this is my last slide, maybe there's one after this, or at least my last theme, and that's the notion of excursion and return. One of the theories about tourism, and I think it relates profoundly to architecture, and profoundly to the notion of metaphor, and some of those sacred architectures we saw, and the idea of pilgrimage. When you go into an environment, inevitably, it's just a common everyday phenomenon. What's the most obvious thing that happens when you go from point A to point B? You actually, the most obvious thing is you come back again. You have an excursion, you go out there and you come back. And to embroider that sort of theory, you go out there with the baggage, most literally, if you're a tourist, the baggage of home. You go there with your preconceptions, your understanding. It's less literal now. We're talking about things you might carry with you, but mental, emotional, psychological, cognitive baggage. You take that with you. So I go from here to Paris, and I go there with a certain set of expectations, which I've gathered from where I live. And then when I'm in Paris, arguably, I see the city and I experience it through the eyes of an Edinburgh resident. But then when I come back to Edinburgh, I see Edinburgh fresh and different. So there's this sort of constant to and fro movement, which is an excursion in terms of very common narrative form. We see it in all sorts of stories and narratives. The hero goes off on a journey and then comes back again transformed. And then that journey is kind of repeated over and over and over again. You see that Hollywood blockbusters right through to sort of sophisticated literature, Homer's Odyssey and other sources. Anyway, that's tourism as well. And John Ury says, like a pilgrim, the tourist moves from a familiar place to a far place and then returns to a familiar place. Well, now, of course, we're carrying these devices with us. And what happens is, even without these devices, the gaze of the tourist renders extraordinary activities that otherwise would be mundane and everyday. So tourist destinations can essentially see other to everyday routines and places. So he talks quite poetically about how when I go to Paris, from him, they say, I do everyday things. I eat, I consume, I go to coffee shops, I read books, I read newspapers. I do all those everyday things. I sleep, I get up. It's inevitable. When I'm in Paris, I do the same as I do in Edinburgh. But I do it in a different context, a different environment. And that reveals to me something about my practices. It reveals to me something about it. It reveals to me something about Paris. So there's something very disruptive, but sensuously and interestingly and embodied about that sort of movement and interaction. I see I have a last point. That's about design creativity in the body. That's if people designing something collaboratively and collectively captured with speed of motion capture. No, it's not motion capture, it's just image capture, isn't it? But speed of up when they're not creating it yet. This is digital media students we teach, working with an animateur who's getting us to create and paint on the ground over a period of about 4 hours. Is condensed. That's just to introduce the notion of creativity in the body. So design inevitably involves embodiment. I was at a conference in Glasgow, I think about May this year, and it was a computer science-oriented conference. It's about human-computer interaction, and Chris and I and other colleagues attend lots of these conferences. They're rarely about architecture. And again, it's fascinating to see what people have to say about space and environment and design, who are not sort of ostensibly trained as designers, and they come from an art college or a university that has architecture. And here you go, here are these guys, again, under the guidance of an animateur, being encouraged to deploy their bodies in the invention of new technologies and explorations of new technologies. And that's just a collage, as you can see, of just to demonstrate how formative the body is as we think about design. Now, it can be deployed. The guys in the middle are sort of rendered there. We're coming up with ideas for technologies that enable people who are mobility impaired to function in various environments with these technologies. And so that was one of the major themes of this particular subset, was how to use these technologies to enable, to say, the mobility impaired to participate in environments more fully. And one of the wacky notions there was to carry a bed around on your back, so if you fall over or faint, then you're protected. But that's the nature of these sort of exercises. You can't be something slightly mad that involves the body, and that perhaps frees you up to think about arguably more practical ideas. This is what sandpits do, isn't it? We'll do that. And architecture, of course, is used for that. It's very stable. It's that something like that, which this was taken up in last year. Maybe this year, because maybe it's first year, this year. Do we recognise ourselves?
Are you in there?
I should recognise someone. Anyway, so we're used to, body, of course, we talk about, but also design in any case is highly embodied. So there you go, that's my themes. And it's trying to relate architecture to these technologies through notions of the body and embodiment. And I think you can't lose as soon as you sort of bring in this third term of the body. That enables this consideration of these technologies and architecture and links them together. So there you go.
Thanks very much.